They told you reality was solid. They told you what you see is what you get, that the physical world is something you simply live inside, like a fixed stage where your role is already written. But what if that stage isn't fixed at all? What if the stage itself is responding to you? Not just your actions, but your energy, your attention, your inner state. What if the very fabric of reality isn't separate from you, but is something you're participating in shaping, moment by moment, breath by breath? That's not just a poetic idea. It's what the emerging understanding of the quantum field reveals, that reality isn't something outside you. It's something you're entangled with, constantly influencing and being influenced by. And the moment you truly grasp that, your life no longer feels like a series of random events. It becomes a canvas, alive, responsive, and ready to mirror your inner world. Think about this for a second. Every day, millions of people wake up feeling stuck, convinced their lives are governed by luck, circumstance, or external power. But hidden beneath the visible world, at a level most never consider, there's a field of energy, information, and infinite potential. It's not an idea, it's a fundamental part of how existence itself operates. Scientists once believed the universe was made up of tiny, solid particles, like little building blocks of matter. But when they started looking closer, much closer, they discovered something shocking. At the smallest levels, those solid particles weren't solid at all. They were vibrating packets of energy, appearing and disappearing, responding to observation itself. This is the quantum field, a vast, invisible sea of energy that underlies everything. And whether you realize it or not, you're interacting with it right now. Imagine standing in front of a still pond. The water seems calm, untouched, but the moment you toss in a stone, ripples spread outward, altering the entire surface. The quantum field works the same way. Your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and even your beliefs are like stones tossed into that field. They create ripples, subtle but powerful, that echo outward into reality. What most people don't realize is that those ripples eventually return. They shape circumstances, opportunities, synchronicities, and even the way others respond to you. The field doesn't care if you believe in it. It responds anyway. It responds to coherence, to energy, to vibrational alignment. This is why some people seem to move through life with ease, while others feel trapped in cycles of struggle. It isn't because one is lucky and the other isn't. It's because one is unconsciously in resonance with what they want, and the other is unconsciously broadcasting a frequency of lack, doubt, or fear. The universe isn't playing favorites. It's responding to what's being broadcast. And here's the paradox: most people aren't aware they're broadcasting anything at all. They think their thoughts are private, their emotions invisible. But the quantum field reads energy, not words. It's like tuning a radio. Whatever frequency you're on determines what song you hear. Change the frequency, and the entire experience shifts. But let's bring this down to something more tangible. Have you ever had a day when you woke up feeling good, for no particular reason, and suddenly everything seemed to flow? People smiled at you. Opportunities seemed to appear out of nowhere. Little coincidences aligned perfectly. And then there are days when the opposite happens, where everything feels like it's working against you. Same world, different energy. What changed? Not the external environment. You did. And the field responded. That's why understanding the quantum field isn't just some abstract spiritual concept. It's about learning the invisible mechanics of your reality. Once you recognize that you are not just a passive observer, but an active participant, you start to see the patterns differently. You stop blaming luck, fate, or other people. You start paying attention to your state of being. Because the field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Here's the deeper truth that most people miss. The quantum field is infinite. It holds within it every possible version of reality. Every possibility, every timeline, every outcome. It's not about forcing the universe to give you something. It's about aligning yourself with the version of reality where what you desire already exists. It's like walking into a room filled with thousands of radio stations playing at once. You can't hear all of them at the same time, but the moment you tune your dial to a specific frequency, that's the station that comes alive in your experience. The station was always there, you just weren't tuned to it. This is why people who practice intentional living, manifestation, or deep states of meditation often report what seem like miracles. But these aren't miracles in the traditional sense. They are natural outcomes of aligning energy with possibility. When your inner state vibrates at the same frequency as what you desire, the field no longer sees it as a distant dream. It becomes a match. And matches are what collapse potential into reality. But make no mistake, This isn't about pretending to be happy or faking positivity. The quantum field doesn't respond to masks, it responds to resonance. It knows the difference between forced affirmations and genuine alignment. That's why change starts not with forcing the outer world, but with shifting the inner world. When your thoughts, emotions, and energy are in coherence, the field mirrors that coherence back to you. This is the quiet power that ancient mystics spoke about, what modern scientists are beginning to observe, and what every human has access to, if they're willing to wake up. Now you might be wondering if the field responds to everyone. Why does it seem like only some people get what they want? The answer lies in consistency. Most people unknowingly send out mixed signals. One moment they're hopeful, the next they're filled with doubt. One day they feel abundant, the next they spiral into scarcity. The field doesn't respond to words, it responds to the dominant signal. And the dominant signal is determined by what you truly feel, think, and embody most of the time, not occasionally. Picture this clearly: your life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. The quantum field isn't somewhere out there. It's here now, surrounding you, flowing through every cell, responding in ways too subtle to measure with the naked eye, but too precise to be dismissed as coincidence. The moment you start observing your inner state as the source, not the result, of your external reality, the rules of the game change. You stop reacting, and you start creating. This isn't easy at first. For years you've been taught to respond to what you see, to let circumstances dictate how you feel. But when you learn how reality actually works, you begin to reverse that. You learn to let your inner state dictate what shows up in the external world. And that's when something extraordinary happens. You stop being a spectator in your life story. You become the author. The quantum field is waiting for your frequency. It doesn't judge. It doesn't choose sides. It amplifies whatever you give it. And in every moment, you're giving it something, through your attention, through your emotional state, through your beliefs. So the real question is not whether the field works. It's what signal you're sending. When you begin to consciously shift that signal, not through force but through awareness, you begin to see how malleable reality actually is. You begin to notice synchronicities, openings, aligned opportunities, and people showing up at the perfect time. These aren't accidents, they're echoes. They're the ripples returning. Most people think change has to be hard, that transformation requires years of struggle, and that life unfolds in a straight line. But the quantum field doesn't work in straight lines. It works through resonance, through instant shifts in possibility. The moment your frequency changes, your relationship to reality changes. But here's the catch. Most people try to change the outer world without changing their inner state, and that's why they stay stuck. You can't rearrange the ripples on the surface of the water without first shifting the energy that created them. That's like trying to change the reflection in a mirror. By adjusting the mirror itself, the image won't shift until the person in front of it does. Think of reality as a mirror. If you frown at it, it frowns back. If you smile, it smiles back. But the reflection is never the source. The reflection is a response. That's how the quantum field works. It reflects the frequency you emit. But because most people have been taught to wait for the reflection to change first, they end up in loops of frustration. They say things like, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the field doesn't operate on seeing first. It operates on being first. When you embody the energy of what you want, even before it shows up, you're broadcasting a clear signal. And that clear signal becomes a magnet. This is why your inner state matters more than most people ever realize. It's not about being positive for the sake of it. It's about coherence. Imagine two tuning forks sitting side by side. When you strike one and it vibrates, the other begins to vibrate too, even though you never touched it. That's resonance. The quantum field behaves the same way. When your vibration resonates with a certain possibility, that possibility begins to materialize, not as magic, but as alignment. People, events, and situations begin to rearrange themselves around your frequency, like iron filings around a magnet. You're not forcing reality, you're tuning to it. Here's a deeper layer most never consider. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what your being declares. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if underneath them you're carrying doubt, fear, or unworthiness, the field isn't fooled. It's reading your energetic signature, not your surface words. That's why the real work happens in silence. It happens when you shift from a state of lack to a state of wholeness. When you start to feel the reality of your desires as if it's already real, your signal stabilizes, and the field begins to mirror that stability. But how does one actually do that? It begins with awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. Most people spend their entire lives on autopilot, recycling the same thoughts and emotions, unaware that those states are continuously feeding the field the same frequency. This creates repeating patterns in their lives. It's why some people feel stuck in cycles that seem to have no end, because their inner broadcast never changes. To shift your reality, you first have to observe your patterns without judgment. Watch how your emotions rise and fall. Notice the stories you tell yourself. Become aware of what frequency you're actually living in, not just the one you hope for. Once awareness awakens, something powerful happens. You begin to create a gap between stimulus and response. You stop reacting and start choosing, and in that choice the signal shifts. That's where your power lies, not in controlling external events, but in mastering your internal state. The quantum field can't give you something you're energetically opposing. If you want abundance but constantly feel scarcity, your frequency and your desire are out of alignment. If you want love but live in fear of rejection, the signal is split. The field reads the truth beneath the surface. This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. Even a slight shift in frequency can create a ripple effect. Think of an airplane taking off. If the pilot adjusts the heading by just a few degrees, the destination completely changes. The same is true with your energy. A small shift in state can set off an entirely different chain of events in your reality, and the field, being precise, responds accordingly. Here's something most people misunderstand. The quantum field doesn't operate on linear time the way we do. To the field, every possibility exists now. Past, present, and future are happening simultaneously in the field's infinite spectrum. What you call the future is simply a frequency that you have not yet tuned into. The moment your vibration aligns with that frequency, it stops being future and becomes present. That's why some people experience rapid transformations. They didn't wait for years. They shifted into alignment with a reality that already existed in the field. But alignment isn't about forcing your way there. You can't manipulate the quantum field through desperation. Desperation is a frequency of lack, and lack only attracts more lack. Alignment happens through allowing, trusting, and embodying the energy of already being. This is why practices like deep meditation, visualization, gratitude, and coherent emotional states have such profound effects. They bring your internal frequency into harmony with the reality you want to experience. And when that happens, the external world begins to echo back in astonishing ways. Have you ever noticed how when you genuinely feel grateful for something, even something small, your day seems to open up, more good things seem to find you? This isn't random. Gratitude is a high coherent state. It tells the field, I already have, I am aligned, and the field responds with more of the same. On the other hand, when you're caught in fear or frustration, the field mirrors that too. It's not punishment, it's reflection. Just like the mirror on your wall doesn't judge your expression, the field doesn't judge your energy, it simply reflects it. The real mastery lies in learning to hold the frequency of what you desire even when your external world hasn't caught up yet. That's where most people falter. They get excited for a day or two, then they look around, see nothing has changed, and collapse back into old frequencies. But the quantum field isn't slow, it's precise. The signal must stabilize long enough for the reflection to manifest. Think of a radio dial. If you keep spinning between stations, you'll never hear a clear song. But if you stay on one frequency, the music plays. There's a moment when this realization clicks, when you truly grasp that your life is not a string of coincidences, but a constant energetic conversation between you and the field. You begin to notice synchronicities that were always there but went unseen. You realize certain people show up at the exact right time, not by chance but through resonance. You recognize that challenges aren't blockages but invitations to shift your state. Because the field isn't against you. It's responding to you. And here's something even more empowering. The quantum field responds fastest when you stop trying to control everything. Control is rooted in fear, and fear creates resistance. But trust, true embodied trust, creates flow. When you trust the field, you stop chasing and start allowing. And allowing is not passive. It's the most powerful state there is, because it's rooted in alignment, not struggle. That's when manifestations accelerate, not because you forced them, but because you got out of your own way. You are not separate from this field. You are part of it, woven into its fabric, influencing and being influenced in every breath. When you understand that, the way you live changes. You stop treating life as something happening outside of you. You begin to live from the inside out. That shift alone can alter everything. There comes a moment when understanding turns into knowing, not intellectual, not theoretical, but embodied. It's that moment when you stop asking if the quantum field is real and start noticing how it's been shaping your life all along. Everything you've ever experienced, everything you've ever attracted, every high, every low, every coincidence, was part of this invisible dialogue. You were speaking to the field without realizing it. Now, when you become conscious of it, the entire game changes, because awareness is the key that unlocks creation. Most people live like passengers, watching their lives unfold as if they're on a train they didn't choose. But the truth is, the train is responding to their vibration. Every thought, every emotion, every belief is a signal, like a command, and reality, like a perfectly tuned instrument, plays back exactly what's instructed. But here's where it gets profound. The field doesn't just respond to the surface layer of thought. It responds to the deep undercurrents, the feelings and states that exist beneath the mask. You can smile on the outside, but if your energy hums with fear or doubt, the field listens to that, not the smile. It always listens to the truth beneath the words. And this is why self-awareness is the most powerful spiritual and practical tool you can develop. When you start to observe your inner world as closely as you once observed your outer one, you begin to see the threads that weave your reality. You catch the moments when fear creeps in. You notice how your body contracts when you doubt, how your chest opens when you trust. These sensations aren't random. They are the language your energy speaks in, and the field listens fluently. Let's make it simple. Imagine you're a broadcasting tower. Every moment, without exception, you're sending out a frequency. The field receives it, amplifies it, and returns experiences that match. This is why certain patterns repeat over and over in people's lives, not because fate is cruel, but because the frequency hasn't changed. It's like tuning into the same station and expecting a different song. It doesn't work like that. If you want a new song, you tune differently. In the same way, if you want a new reality, you must emit a new frequency. Here's the subtle trap most people fall into. They think they can change their frequency by changing their external circumstances. They think, once I have the money, then I'll feel abundant. Or, once I'm loved, then I'll feel worthy. But the quantum field doesn't mirror your conditions. It mirrors your state. So if your state is waiting, the field reflects waiting. If your state is lack, the field reflects lack. But when your state shifts to wholeness, to gratitude, to abundance, even before the external shifts, the field has no choice but to reflect that back. It's not personal. It's physics. This is why some people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly while others feel stuck. Those who attract with ease aren't lucky. They're aligned. Their signal is clear, unwavering, and coherent. They don't just say they're abundant. They feel it, embody it, radiate it, and because of that, the field mirrors it swiftly. On the other hand, those who say one thing but vibrate another send a scattered signal. The field isn't confused. It simply reflects the dominant frequency. But this isn't meant to make you feel pressured. It's meant to liberate you. Because it means you don't have to wait for anything external to shift before your reality does. You hold the lever inside. The power has always been with you, not with the world. The key is to stop reacting and start broadcasting deliberately. Now imagine this. Every desire you have is already existing as a potential in the field. Every version of you, stronger, freer, more abundant, deeply loved, already exists. You're not creating something from scratch. You're tuning to the version that's already there. Just as you can't hear a radio station until you tune in, you can't experience a reality until your vibration matches it. That's why the most profound shifts often happen not when you chase something, but when you become the person who already has it. For example, think of someone who wants to attract deep, meaningful love. Many focus on the absence of it. They look around, feel lonely, and hope something changes. But loneliness is a frequency. It broadcasts lack. The field mirrors it back, sometimes in the form of unavailable people, temporary connections, or nothing at all. But if that same person shifts their inner state to love, not love directed outward, but love as a felt presence within themselves, they broadcast wholeness. And wholeness doesn't chase. It attracts. The field responds by bringing matches to that vibration. And often when people do this genuinely, the love they desired shows up in ways more natural and aligned than they ever expected. This works the same way for abundance, health, opportunity, and purpose. The outer is always the echo. The inner is always the original sound. Shift the sound, and the echo changes. And the most beautiful part is that the field isn't linear. Change doesn't require years. It requires alignment. And alignment can happen in a single moment of realization, a single breath of surrender, a single heartbeat of clarity. But of course, doubt creeps in. People ask, If it's that simple, why doesn't everyone do it? Because simplicity doesn't mean ease. The biggest obstacle isn't the field. It's the human habit of identifying with old stories. People become addicted to their past, to their pain, to their patterns. They wear their history like a badge, not realizing it's also a weight. The quantum field doesn't care about your past. It only responds to the signal you're sending now. But many people unknowingly keep transmitting their old frequency, keeping themselves anchored in the same reality. This is why forgiveness, letting go, and releasing old identities are such powerful steps. Not because they're moral acts, but because they clear your signal. When you release the grip of the past, the field stops receiving the old frequency, and for the first time, it can respond to the new one you choose to emit. That's when doors appear where there were only walls. That's when synchronicities flood in like a tide. That's when everything that felt distant starts to feel inevitable. And here's a truth that can change everything. The quantum field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to clarity. Struggling, pushing, and striving often come from a place of lack. But clarity comes from presence, from inner stillness, from alignment. When you know who you are, when you know what you're broadcasting, you don't need to chase. You attract, effortlessly. This is what mystics meant when they said reality bends to those who are still inside. Because stillness isn't empty, it's the frequency of power. So what does this mean for you right now? It means that every thought, every feeling, every emotional reaction is an opportunity to choose your signal. You can continue broadcasting unconsciously, repeating the same old song, or you can pause, breathe, and decide, what frequency do I want to send out right now? What version of reality am I aligning with in this moment? That choice made consistently becomes momentum, and momentum in the quantum field becomes reality faster than most people can comprehend. Imagine living from this awareness every day, waking up not as a reactor, but as a conscious broadcaster, walking through life knowing that even the challenges you face are invitations to refine your signal, feeling an unshakable trust that the field is always responding, not sometimes, not maybe always. When that awareness becomes natural, your entire relationship to reality transforms. You stop fighting it, you start co-creating with it. The world hasn't changed, you have. And when you change, the world has no choice but to mirror that back.